So, so here's a Parsha overview, and we're going to right away discuss all about Yosef and Yosef revealing himself. Finally, after over 22 years, he reveals himself to his brothers and he lets them know that he's Yosef. So, you know, in the story with the Yosef and the brothers, there's a lot of details that if you don't look in the commentaries, you probably won't understand what the Torah is talking about. You know, the first thing that he told his brothers after he revealed himself as Yosef, he said, I am Yosef. Is our father still alive? If you look, they didn't even answer him. He asked the question and there was no answer. So we know pretty much the history, what happened. Brothers are jealous. They throw him in the pit. They sell him as a slave. Yosef is a teenager. He predicted the future. He predicted the dreams. And he ends up saving the whole Egypt from hunger. Then the brothers are in Israel. They also don't have food. They call out and they find out that there's food in Egypt. They go to Egypt. Yosef accuses them. They don't know it's Yosef. He accuses them and says, you're a bunch of spies. And if you don't bring your youngest brother, Binyamin, with you, then I will not continue giving you food. So they go home and the dad is very upset because he refuses to send Binyamin, which is the woman he loves, the boy he loves the most from Rachel. So his wife he loved the most, Rachel, died. His son from the wife that he loved the most supposedly died. And now he is left with Binyamin. He had no choice and he had to send Binyamin to go to Yosef because or else Yosef refused to give him food. He comes to Yosef and Yosef treats them again very roughly. He packs them up with food to go back on their trip. And he tricks and he puts a golden cup, a silver cup in the bag of Binyamin. And then he sends the servants to go chase after the boys. When the servant comes, he finds the cup in the bag of Binyamin. He says, okay, Mr. Binyamin, you're going to be a slave for Yosef. Now Yehuda promised that he's going to make sure that Binyamin comes home no matter what. So here we begin the Torah portion in text number 1a. Yehuda goes over and tells Yosef, listen up. If you don't let my brother Binyamin go back to his father, our father is going to die from pain. Because he's been suffering for 22 years crying over Yosef. If Binyamin is not back, he's going to be terribly pained and he's going to possibly die. I have an idea, Yehuda said. He steps forward and he tells Yosef as follows. He thinks Yosef is an Egyptian. And he says, look, listen. I promise that I'm going to make sure Yehuda Binyamin comes home. In every way, I am better than my brother. I'm a better servant. I'm stronger. My brother is a little guy. Now here, listen to what happened. The brothers originally wanted to kill Yosef and sell him to the Egyptians, which they did. They tore him away from his family. They tore him away to an unknown land. and he has to worry about himself. Naturally, any person would be resentful. Yosef is in a position of power, and the brothers are vulnerable. Normally, what would someone do? Take revenge. You made me suffer for 22 years. I'm going to get back to you, and I have the power to do it. But no. When Yosef hears the dialogue that Yehuda is saying how his father is going to suffer, and he took responsibility to get Binyamin back home, Yosef cannot contain his emotion. He orders the Egyptians to leave the room. Only him and his brothers are left. He cries bitterly, as you see here in text number 3, and he reveals his identity to the brothers, and he says, I am Yosef. But look at this powerful question we have in text number 4. I am Yosef. Is our father still alive? What do you mean, is our father still alive? You already know previously that our father is still alive. We've been talking about this forever. Why would Yosef bring up now, is our father still alive? Of course our father's still alive. I just told you a whole speech how our father's going to die if I don't bring Binyamin back. So why would Yosef make such a bold statement and ask, is our father still alive, if we already finished speaking in length that our father's still alive? Some people want to explain it's just a way of conversation. He knew the brothers were extremely embarrassed. He wanted them to feel at ease. He wanted to move the attention from himself to them and their family. He wanted to shift the attention. But when he saw they were so shocked and they were not even able to respond, he changed the subject. So he, just to carry conversation, he said, is our father still alive? We see this many other times in the Torah. For instance, look in text number 6a, very famous statement. When Adam ate from the tree, what was the first thing God tells Adam as soon as he finished eating from the tree? God says to him, Adam, where are you? What do you mean, where are you? You don't think Hashem, God, knows where Adam is? Why is he asking, where are you? Again, it's just to get into a dialogue with Adam. He knew already where he was. He wanted to carry a conversation with him, like you see here in the Rashi in text 6b. He knew where he was. He just didn't want to come and start screaming at Adam, Adam, why did you eat from the tree? So he prepared it and got him into the mood. But wait a minute, still not understood. It's unlikely. It's unlikely that Yosef was trying to do this. You know, it's like small talk. You meet somebody for the first time, they say, how are you? 5 minutes later, they have nothing else to say, so they say again, how are you? It wouldn't make sense that this was the reason why Yosef did it. He should have spoken about something else. So here comes a fascinating explanation from the Rebbe. The Rebbe says like this. He's not asking a question, is our father still alive? He's asking a question, ha'od avichai, how is our father still alive? It's almost like when Cain, when he killed his brother and God asked him, where's your brother? He said, am I my brother's keeper? He didn't mean I'm not my brother's keeper. He meant I am not my brother's keeper. But he said it in a question. The same thing is over here. This is exactly what happened here. Joseph was saying, how is it possible that our father is still alive? How could it be? Why not? So let's see how it's a very big wonder that Jacob survived. Why? If you look in text number 7a, Jacob's never mourning over his son. Look at text number 7a. Everybody tried to comfort him, his daughters-in-law, and he refused to get comforted. He continued crying for 22 years. Now, could you imagine, as Rashi explains, could you imagine this suffering of an elderly man, already over the age of 100, crying for 22 years? Why was he crying so long? Typically, when someone dies, we comfort that person to overcome the pain. But if you think the person died, you can't overcome the pain. Let's look at it as a psychological point of view. They came over to Jacob and they say, you know, the son you loved the most, he's dead. Some wild animal ate him up, and here's his coat filled with blood. How satisfying is that? There's not even a dead body to see. There's not even a funeral. There's nothing. It's just a coat that he's looking at. This level of suffering, of losing a child, is horrible. And especially that he didn't even have the proper burial according to Yaakov. Now, this level of suffering could have a terrible effect on someone's health, never mind Yaakov's health. And that's exactly what Yosef is saying. Yosef is making a statement. And this is what he said. I am Yosef, and I never died. And that's why our father is suffering even worse. Because when someone is alive, they cannot overcome the pain of the death. God gave people a blessing that when a loved one dies, you overcome it after a little while. But that blessing is only given when someone is really dead. But when you think someone died, like the case with Yaakov, he could never overcome it. And Yosef is saying, I am alive. How is our father still alive? Because I am alive. And now we understand the continuation of the verses. Jacob says clearly, Yosef says clearly to the brothers, hurry up. Tell your father the good news. Do not delay. He's an old man. Every minute of suffering is terrible. Go quickly and tell him I'm alive. We could obviously ask, why didn't Yosef go for 22 years and go tell his father that he's alive and stop his father from suffering? There's many explanations. Does anyone have a good explanation? Why wouldn't Yosef go for 22 years and let his father know he's alive? He's second to the king. He has a lot of power. He could probably send a messenger to go to Egypt, to go to Israel. What is Israel to Egypt? You're talking about 200 miles. Not a big deal. Why wouldn't he send someone to let his father know he's alive? Anyone has a good explanation to this? Jeffrey, what do you think? Why wouldn't Yosef go tell his dad that he's alive for 22 years?
Well, I was thinking maybe he was waiting for a signal from Hashem, but that the time had come to reveal it.
Good. Very good. There was a whole plan here to get Jacob to come to Egypt because God told Abraham they're going to come to Egypt and he didn't want to ruin the plan. An interesting thing that I read today, he thought that his father's not alive anymore because of all the suffering he went through. So till he became the leader of Egypt, he couldn't go. Now that he became the leader of Egypt, which is exactly 8 years before this, because there was 6 years of plenty and then 2 years of hunger, he couldn't go. I mean, he thought he died. That's what one of the commentaries say. But the explanation you gave, Jeffrey, is the best explanation because he didn't want to interfere and he didn't feel right to go give over that information. That's the best way of explaining it. So there's another explanation to why Yosef said, "Is our father still alive?" Till now, we spoke about Yosef's question and his wonder if Jacob's alive. Let's look at the brothers' point of view. After Yosef revealed himself, the verse says that the brothers couldn't answer because they were ashamed. They were embarrassed. Now, according to many commentaries, not only they were ashamed, but they were scared. Yosef was the ruler over Egypt. He has the key to all the food. They were scared. He's going to take revenge from them at this point. As Rabbi Elazar says here in text number 8, that when he would read this phrase, how Yosef was rebuking his brothers, "I am Yosef, is our father still alive?" If he would cry, Rabbi Elazar would cry, he would say, could you imagine if you get rebuked from a human, how bad you feel? Could you imagine being rebuked from God himself? But wait a minute. What kind of rebuke did Yosef give his brothers? We only see that he revealed himself and he asked, "Is our father still alive?" But one of the commentaries, the Malbim, which was actually born in Ukraine, and he lived from the year 1809 to 1879, great rabbi commentary on the Chumash, he explains that Yosef is coming in connection with what was discussed before. What was discussed before? That Yehuda said, "Is for our father." And now Yosef is rebuking them. And he's telling the brothers. Yosef is rebuking the brothers. And he's telling them, "How have you not worried about our father's pain when you sold me to Egypt? Why have you not cared?" Which means, our father's still alive and I am Yosef. Why didn't you care and why weren't you worried about him? So it's a rebuke that he's giving them. As we see here from Rabbi Elazar. So this is almost a rebuke that we have. How many times have we hurt people we love? Sometimes the people we love the most, unfortunately, we hurt the most because we're the closest to them. And we say things sometimes that causes them an enormous amount of pain. And that's what Rabbi Elazar was crying about. We're in a loving relationship with God in heaven. And it's shameful and painful that we cause God pain through our sins. Now we see how Yosef was rebuking his brothers. We learn how to rebuke. if you have to rebuke someone, which we all unfortunately have to at some stage, we all have to give rebuke. We have to know how to rebuke according to the Torah to help another person. It's very delicate. There's two major components that you must consider when you're giving constructive rebuke. The intent of the person saying the rebuke. What's he really thinking? When you're screaming at your friend, what's really deep inside you? How is the message delivered? The tone of the voice and the words you're using. How Yosef rebuked is a master of art. Two things he did. Number one, he did not unload his resentment. He did not unload how resentful he was, because he was not resentful at all. It came from a level of love and connection. And when he saw the compassion of his brother Yehuda, even though they thought that Yosef is a cold man and he doesn't have any warmth and he doesn't care, he started crying. Look at the text in the Chumash. Yosef cried 7 times. Also, it's important to know the way it's administrated. Make sure it's done in a proper way. Make sure that the way you do it is done with the right intention. In the verse, we see that Yosef said, "Come close." Look at text 11b. Come close means he spoke to them with soft words, not harsh words. And the Or HaChaim explains even deeper here in text number 11c how he was speaking with a tone of voice with such calm words. We see Yosef's sensitivity, his ability to carefully consider how the second person feels and address his fears and concerns. When they felt embarrassment and pain and fear, Yosef changed his tone of voice. From being a strong leader, he wanted to put them at ease. And this is in line with the rule in the Talmud that says, text number 12, always the left should push away and the right should bring closer. In the words of the Torah, it teaches us a very important lesson that I want to bring out today. The right side symbolizes a display of loving and kindness. You care about the next person. According to Chassidut, right shows unkindness. You care about him or her. The left side is keeping distance. It's pura, it's severity, discipline. You need both. Sometimes you need discipline. Sometimes you need kindness. And when you use one more than the other, it's a problem. It could cause damage. Too much kindness could cause damage. Too much severity could cause damage. You have to know when and how to use severity. Discipline. The above mentioned Talmud teaches us that in the beginning, and especially when you're educating your children, must be kindness and the right hand. You must definitely use discipline when you're For instructional purposes, if you're giving instructions, you have to have discipline. Parents to children, friends to friend, teacher that has to make rules in the class. But when you're using discipline, you have to be extra careful. It's possible that when you're trying to rebuke someone, you won't stop. You just keep on talking without considering the next person's feelings. Think this in mind before you rebuke. Is this for me or for them? Am I trying to just lash out at the other person because it makes me feel good, or I'm trying to help them? Chassidus explains a fascinating statement here in text number 13. Before you rebuke someone, cut your nails. Spiritually, that means don't poke another person. This teaches us, check your intention and your purpose of delivering this message. Before you give constructive rebuke, even though you need to help others, God forbid to cause pain to another person. Causing pain to another person is very painful for the other person. The other person will become defensive. In place of learning to grow, they will turn away. We find this sometimes when we're trying to influence people to get closer to Judaism. We rebuke them and we push them down. And that could cause them a lot of pain and turn them away from Judaism. But when you're kind and you show them love, that's the way to help. Whether it's between husband and wife, whether it's between friends, when you criticize, you have to do it with warmth. Even if you're speaking strong, but then you say something kind, like Joseph and his brothers. Even if you're right, like a boss to his workers, or you're coaching someone or a friend, leave the next person at ease. Make sure that they still feel good. Do not push them down, because then you're doing it for yourself. You're not helping the other person. Try to rebuke in a loving, caring way. We always say, start with something nice, then you could say the rebuke, and then end with something nice. And that's the only way to do it. You've probably heard of Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky that passed away not too long ago, lived in Pittsburgh. He was a psychologist and the author of many books. When he was a young child, he once played chess on the first day of Rosh Hashanah in the afternoon. Now, it's not a sin to play chess on Rosh Hashanah. You're not driving a car. You're not, using your phone. But he played chess. His father called him over and rebuked him for playing chess on Rosh Hashanah, because he should be engaged in holier acts like saying the Psalms, praying and doing studying and so on and so forth, because it's such a holy day. And his father rebuked him for it. And he told his father, but it's allowed. But his father told him, but you know better. In any case, he walked away, and his father called him back. And he told him, I know that you checkmated the one you were playing with, which means he rebuked him for playing, but then he complimented him for winning the game. So that's a loving father. He showed the child love at the end of the rebuke. So next time you have to be harsh to someone, we're not saying not to do it, but when you do it, make sure you end off with something positive. The best lesson is from Yosef. He could have controlled them, he could have rebuked them, he could have caused them to suffer, but he refused to behave that way. He chose to be kind and make the brothers feel at ease. He wanted the brothers to feel happy and good about what he was telling them and the way they felt. L'chaim.
Chaim, thank you, Rabbi.
Yes, so tonight we have Hey Tevis. It is a very big day in the Chabad calendar. The books were stolen from the Rebbe's library in 1985. The books were stolen. And then in 1987, the victory happened and the books were by the Supreme Court. They said the books belonged to Chabad. And the Rebbe felt that when the books are not in the proper place, it's like almost tearing away parts from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, because it was his library and the books belonged to him, and his books were very, very special, and he cared very much about every single book, because a lot of these books came from his father all the way back to the Baal Shem Tov. So it was a very important day that the books proclaimed through the court that they belonged back to the Chabad movement. So l'chaim, we should have only victories and blessings, and all the blessings we had from Hanukkah should continue flowing and shining upon us for many years. And we should only do things that will cause happiness and joy to the Rebbe. L'chaim.
Amen.
L'chaim, Rabbi.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
Chaim,
How are you, Hilda?
I'm doing great.
Rabbi, thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem, thank God. Do you happen to be in the state of Florida?
No, I'm not. I'm in Baltimore. Freezing cold.
All right. Well, one day I'm sure you'll make it here.
Oh, yeah.
Rabbi.
Oh, for sure. You can count. You can seal that. Say hello to Sippy for me.
I will.
All my love.
Absolutely.
Rabbi, can I ask you
Absolutely.
a question?
Sure, Steve.
So how many wives were involved with all those brothers?
This was unbelievable.
How many wives were
Gave birth
involved?
to that family with all the brothers? Were
So
they from-
supposedly the brothers had only one wife, according to the way it's explained.
No, not
They
the
were
brothers. Joseph.
No, Joseph only had one wife.
And, okay.
He had married one wife and he had two sons. Gershon, I'm not Gershon. It's written in the parsha. Eliezer. No, sorry. Menashe and Ephraim were Joseph's two sons.
But all the other brothers came from how many wives?
Four.
4. So they were like a very big blended family
Exactly.
in that time.
But-
And
They were
And-
very. What's interesting is that they all lived. Seems like they lived in the same house, but then, so they left. They came to Israel again, and then they got married and had their own kids. The
Right, but
total
in-
number
Yeah.
wasn't a big number that arrived into Egypt. You're talking about 22 years later. The total number of Jews was only 70.
but growing up, that family with the,
Yeah,
with the brothers,
exactly.
right? So you just, I mean, because in modern day, you talk about blended families and all the problems that they had in, you don't want to show favoritism, you want to treat all the children. You just, when you apply family dynamics to that situation, it just makes it for an interesting kind of context, because you're
Yeah.
never supposed to show, so you treat all your kids equally, right? No matter stepson, stepdaughter, whatever, all of that. And it's interesting to apply, maybe in these days, they'd probably go to family counseling, right, to try and work it out.
Right. I mean, yeah, the truth is you're right. The commentaries discuss in length how it was sort of a spiritual thing where the brothers felt that he wants to kill them because he was telling the father about sins that they did, which those sins caused death. So it says if someone's trying to kill you, you're allowed to kill them. And that's what he was trying to accomplish. So basically, yeah, that's what their excuse was. But you're absolutely right. They
Yeah,
needed
you don't
some
want
help.
to,
They
you don't want
needed
to
a lot
read
of help.
into it, but you can imagine like how difficult, if it was a modern family and, oh, you know, you said, how are they treating all their, you know, so it's just very interesting when you put it in that kind of context.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, so he lost, so Yosef and Binyamin lost their mom at a young age. She was only 36 years old when she died. So, you know, they were left in the house with the maids. The Bilhah and Zilpah and Leah. So the three other mothers were there, and then the children, little by little, started getting married.
Right, but it's a stressful situation, so you can imagine.
True, you're
Never
right.
making excuses for anybody, but when you think about that,
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I mean, look at even Jacob. Let's go all the way back. Look at Abraham. Abraham married Hagar, and he had Yishmael, and then they were fighting. They were killing each other. Yishmael and Yitzchak, and then Yishmael had to leave. And you're talking about only two boys. And then you had the next family of Jacob and Esau. Esau wanted to kill Jacob, so Jacob had to run away.
Right.
So here you're talking about 12 big shot boys, you know,
Right.
strong and learned and smart and intelligent. Look at the 12 tribes. I mean, you could imagine. Look at Yehuda. You're talking about not only a giant in Torah and everything, but also a strong, physically powerful person.
Right.
So these are very, big giants. And you're right. You're absolutely right.
Right, and over the years, it probably again, these days, you'd see a family therapist, you talk to a rabbi, and you try and work it out, and there it just festered. And you can imagine then, when you have that, it's not surprising what happened, but when you put it in contemporary terms, it's just like, how could there not be conflict? Especially if the father showed favoritism to one or the other, and if you're a kid, you get jealous. So it's just very interesting when you put it in that kind of context.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay. Take care.